governments are far too soft in business. Yeah, we can't legislate what doesn't exist, but actually we've got a heck of a lot of solutions here already that we can and we do need to roll out very, very fast. We don't have to invent the wheel. The wheel's there. We can add to the wheel as we go along, but we need to work with what we've already got. And business works really well with legislation. You tell them it's illegal, and they've got their transition time to turn around. They do it. World War II showed us that. In America, they turned around to the automobile industry and they said, okay, we need you because you're good at making things to make planes. Well, the Fords of this world said, we're not going to do that. So they turned around the next day and said, we passed emergency legislation last night. Now we're making it illegal to make cars and you're going to have to make planes, and we want 5,000 by the end of the year. Well, by the end of the year, they had 50,000. And it continued and so on. So it just shows you put the right legislation in place, business moves very fast. Business is very good with legislation. Once they recognize that something is illegal and they have to move to reinvent that wheel, and chuck the money at them to reinvent the wheel, give them the great subsidies. We can reinvent the wheel very, very fast. There are many examples in history of how we've done this, and we need to do it again.
Great. A brief comment from Tom?
Yeah, I agree with that, but what I just wanted to add was that businesses are a hotbed of innovation, and there are hundreds of people all around the country finding out new ways of doing things in businesses. And businesses need to really shout about what they're doing and tell people what they're doing, and then use what they're doing as a template for innovation in other parts of the country. I think at the moment the problem is a lot of people are doing similar projects in different areas of the country. They just don't know enough about each other, and they need to shout louder so that networks can be made and people can learn from other experiences of other businesses rather than having to start again with their own.
Thank you. The first 2 or 3 comments or questions from the floor on the role of business in reducing carbon emissions. There's a gentleman in a brown jacket there.
Hello? I was interested in what Alan was saying about big businesses, and it always seems to me that our real chance is small businesses, because big businesses remind me of tankers. They take 80 miles to stop or turn around, and we need dramatic. I agree with Polly that we need dramatic change. So I'm interested in, is it small businesses really who are the hotbeds? Because big businesses, in my experience, aren't they're a hotbed of innovation, but they don't have the systems to make the real change we need.
Good comment. Small businesses may be able to move faster. Mm-hmm. There's a lady there with a red jacket.
Okay. In my experience, many times there is a conflict in the business model, the way we make money, and the innovation we have. Many big corporations have solutions, and then they say, well, we can't put them through because we can't make money out of selling wind or selling sun power or something. And I think we need new metrics of success for businesses and move from ROI, return on investment, into a model of COI, consequences on investment, in which return is part of it, but it's not everything.
Thank you. There's a gentleman here at the front.
I just want to know what your thoughts are on the concentration of capital, the fact that really small business and innovation as a percentage of overall capital available gets a tiny, minuscule percent, but it's where all innovation comes from. And large organizations, when they reach a certain size, become very bureaucratic, very slow, and just like the gentleman in the back, they're like oil tankers. So if we're funding the problem, those oil tankers, and not the solution, how can we get capital more effectively deployed to the best innovators that still can generate a return for investors? Because that's what it really is about for them.
Thank you. How can we direct capital to the most innovative businesses? Alan.
We've got to manage the risk involved in that. If I was running your pension and I said I put 1/3 of your pension into a bit of innovation, I'm sorry it didn't work, you've lost 1/3 of your pension, you'd be pretty cross. Yeah? And so we need to find a way that the capital markets work where a small percentage is allowed to be wasted on backing high-risk, unproven technology. And at the moment, because a lot of capital markets feed our pensions and feed our insurance policies, that risk is unacceptable to us, let alone the people who look after our money. Because I sometimes think we talk about capital markets as if it's other people's money. So return on investment is making sure that your pension pot exists in the future. I know there's other forms of capital as well, but investment is another word for somebody else's money. Yeah? And you are trusted to respect that money and give at least the same amount back, possibly more. That's what return of investment means. It's how you make money from other people's money, i.e. our money. Yeah? The perverse consequence of that is it all goes to safe places and not innovation. And that's what we've got to manage, and that's what we've got to overcome. So the question is well asked, but don't be cynical towards things like return on investment because it's our money they're talking about.
And have you any ideas about how we might create an innovation fund?
Yeah, I think it's things like the Green Deal, it's prizes, it's just pure research grants. You know, the money is out there.
Okay. Matt?
I think we need to place new values on new things, and you know, the pricing of carbon over the last few years has been a very obvious one, and it's not the only one that we should be thinking about, of course. But I think really valuing our products and services in a different way will be at the heart of a radical change.
Polly, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I agree with Matt. This is about embedding principles, and I agree in particular what that lady just said there, consequences on investment. Very good way of restructuring and rethinking about the problem. There's a big move in Latin America to actually remap the world, and it's kind of something that tangentially taps into this. The idea is, instead of seeing ourselves as developed versus developing world, see ourselves as carbon creditors versus carbon debtors. And that is very, very interesting. Once you start actually viewing the world on that basis, then you can compare, for instance, Finland and Gabon tend to be the same level, but it's very interesting. The developed world are the carbon debtors on the whole, and the developing world are the carbon creditors. Your mind shifts as to how you approach it, because you're actually embedding a certain value system within that by using that phraseology. So the consequences on investment as a matrix, I think, is a jolly good idea. I support that.
Tom, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, I'd like to go back to the pension fund question raised by Alan. I think a lot of pension funds are massive, and therefore they can spread risk very effectively. So they could put a small percentage of their funds into innovative, environmentally friendly projects, and then if some of them didn't work, then that wouldn't really matter, because the amount of money they have is huge, and if they spread that risk, then of all the projects that they put their money into, there's bound to be a few that work, and they're going to pay and make it worth it ultimately for the pensioner and the insurance company that rely on that return.
Great. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. What is the role of the public in reducing carbon emissions satisfactorily? Matt?
Okay, so my view personally on responsibility on this one is that the public are 100% responsible for the problem. You could quite easily argue that 100% of UK emissions or global emissions are attributable to individual actions. In the UK, almost a half of all our emissions are directly attributable to individuals, so that's you turning on your heater